key decision to making the process a success was having a conversation with the building official. The building official sort of was the first person in line throughout the process that really decided who's involved throughout the review process. With Farm First, we wanted to have people coming to the site to buy, to engage in events, in a building, a farm building. Initially, the building official said if that's the case, they would need a change of use permit. It would have to be classified similar to any retail or commercial establishment. With that being said, then you have the fire marshal being involved. You have the health department being involved. You have VDACS being involved. You're like, all of those. We had to find a way not to circumvent the code, but not to have that entire review process be a part of the F2EP. We discussed quite often with the building official, had a number of meetings, and he concluded that if they're doing this seasonally, which is short term, if it's less than 6 months, then it would not require a change of use. That's how we got into the ballpark of Farm First, which basically means you can currently, if you're doing blueberries, you can sell your blueberries from your farm. That's permitted. You can have you pick it. That's permitted. But if you want to make blueberry jam, blueberry pies, have T-shirts, have mugs, whatever, to have with marketing, then you were basically a Dollar General. So the building official stated that I'm not going to require it if it's seasonal. So you do your pick your own, sell the berries, and then from October until whenever, for less than 6 months, you can sell your pies, your T-shirts and mugs under the Farm First. That's how we got around that. We could not supersede VDOT requirements, so it's up to the applicant to still talk to VDOT to see what they would require for their farm entrance. But the building official did not require, because it's still a farm building, did not have to be ADA requirements, did not have to provide restroom facilities.
Hey Bill, I don't mean to interrupt you, but just one question, I guess. Is that a local building official's opinion, or can that same opinion be applied legally statewide? You know?
At any point, any locality you have their building official go to the state DHCD and get have an opinion rendered, but it ultimately resides with that local building official. So they could vary from locality to locality.
So what works in Rockingham wouldn't necessarily be guaranteed.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just some of the differences between, just quickly, between the current special use permit process and the Farm First. Building code review, under special use permit, it's a $95 fee minimum, 7 to 10 day review period. Farm First, no cost there. E&S, stormwater, $500 plus $200 per acre for the development of a farm site. For development. Under Farm First, no requirement. Farm marshal review, no requirement. Health department requirements. Public bathrooms are not required, so we did not get into having health department involved in the process. Hope the state folks agree with me there. Public works review, again, a farm building did not require your involvement. Site plan, normally charged $450 plus $25 per acre. No fee there. Special use permit fee itself is $550 in a 3-month review process under Farm First. Does not involve that. And then you have your state agency reviews and VDOT reviews under the special use permit process. Farm First, whatever VDOT requires. So there is a significant difference between the two. The fee for Farm First is $25. The review process, once a complete application is submitted, I have a sample here. It's pretty simple. There's a 30-day review process. We notify adjoining landowners, and they have 30 days to comment on the proposal by the farm. At the in the 30 days, I'll look at those comments and I will render an opinion on whether or not to approve the request. I will say to date, we've had about 4 or 5 inquiries for Farm First, but no one has gone through the process. And I believe that's the case because with our special permit process, most farms that are coming in for a new business, they don't want to do it just for 6 months. And if they're going to invest the money, then they want to continue year after year after year. So they would rather go through the special permit process. And as I stated earlier, there's a 75% approval rate. There has been from 2008 until today. A breakdown of those types of uses. And again, this 5-year period, halfway through this year, basic agricultural permit, a specialist permit, it may have been for some sort of, I'm not sure what it was for, I'm not going to try to speculate. But we had 3 of those and 2 were approved. Business services, 68 requests, 49 approved. Entertainment, 5 requests, 3 were approved. Events, 6 requests, 4 were approved. We had 4 requests for landing strips, only 1 was approved. Lodging, such as a bed and breakfast or country inn, 6 requests, 5 were approved. Divisions of land, so that creating a second parcel within the ag area. We try to slow down how much residential development happens in the agricultural area, so you have to get a special permit for a division of land or for a second residence. 53 and 39 were approved. Retail businesses, 18 requests, 16 were approved. And then utilities, including telecommunications, 19 requests and 17 were approved. And again, that approval rate is about 74.7% over that 4.5 year period for special use permits within the agriculturally zoned areas of Rockland. I'll stop there and see if there's any questions.
Thank you very much. And I've got, we'll kind of open it up to the group here. If you receive your Farm First, you're part of the permit, you're in the system, what restrictions are there on what you can sell on your farm?
We've identified We've identified a whole list of what we call secondary income generators, and that's in the ordinance. But again, I'm sure we haven't considered everything that someone might come up with. So if it's something comparable to that, compatible with what's on the list, we would probably approve that as well.
And the other question I have is, with the buildings then, if you're operating less than 6 months, is there any inspection process at all? I mean, does someone come out and inspect and deem it to be safe, even if it's only 6 months, or is it apply, you're operating for 3 months and you're okay?
No, you're not. The building official felt that if someone's not applying for a permit, then he would not like to render an opinion whether or not the building is safe, because you're not applying for a permit and we're not doing inspections. Or you're not having an engineer certify that the building structure is sound. And so he felt that he did not want to be rendering any opinions about having inspected the building.
Questions here on the committee? Yes, Renee?
Really, I've got a question for you. Under this program, are the farmers who are participating, do they then open themselves up to other taxes like a meat hole tax or machinery and tools?
The only time we need to sell is food that we're aware of. And again, that's the revenues, area of expertise. We did have discussions with him about that. He felt that there would be very few items that were under that requirement. But again, the applicant would be required to submit enterprise plan and discuss with the commission revenues what he or she would want to do or would tax it in.
Are you saying you only need a permit if you put a floor in your shed? Is that what you're saying? Like if I have a pole barn or dirt and I put vegetables under it, then I don't need a permit
If you're selling value-added products,
So you're
Well,
making
you
it
sell
sell
it.
it, because right now, I don't need a permit to do that, and I would hate to have to have one.
now, if you're selling the stuff that's growing on your farm,
Okay.
you have people come on your, selling it from a roadside stand, there's no permit required for that. That's a violation of use of land.
Okay, so for farmers, we don't need permits unless we get into a storefront.
You don't need permits unless you're selling jams that are made from the blueberries on your farm. Unless you're selling pies and selling t-shirts and mugs.
Right, because I sell farmers market those things.
You can sell off-site somewhere else, but you're selling from your farm, and people come to your site to buy.
Right, but that's not the law. And one of the things I have an issue with when I deal with these type of things is it seems that every inspector that I do deal with has a different story. So because I have uniqueness where I deal with the Department of Health in every county, it seems, I get a different story. So I just like, I know we're trying to uniform the counties, but as a farmer right now, I have the right to make jams and delis and put it in a jar and sell it off of my farm without a permit. And I would not want to have the government come on my farm and make me have to answer all these questions, like the ones that you just read off, about things that have made it impossible for farmers to be able to make a living off of this.
I would say that in Washington County, like you speak for the other localities, that we do not have a staff to go out and check to see what people are selling in roadside stands or stands on their farm. It's basically complaint driven. Do I know that there are roadside stands or farms that are selling more than just produce grown on their farm? Yes.
Right, but I have to.
But we do not go out, and that's not the intent of the Farm First. The intent of Farm First is that if someone does complain to me, they just say complain about their neighbors. Then we have a means for that farmer to continue being out of business under Farm First.
And I really appreciate the intent of that. But we also know how far the intent can go. It doesn't hold up anywhere. And so we can all have great intent. But at this point right now, I am not able to go to my farmer and buy something without jumping through hoops that make it almost impossible to do it. So I would hate to put a permit in place when I don't have to have a permit already. I would like to have solutions that actually solve the problem of helping a farmer make a living on his farm. So,
Any other, and I don't want this to be an attack session on Billy, he's just.
I'm not
just-
I'm sorry.
I want to hold it down.
If I seem a little,
No, you're not, you're fine.
On the comments, you said you read comments from neighbors. What would you look for in terms of something, what type of comment would hold up someone's application versus, you said your neighbors complain about neighbors. What's a showstopper?
First of all, we haven't had any for our first permits, but we use this process for other parts of our ordinance. And it's an administrative review. I make the call, the final decision. And I'll use telecommunications, co-location. Someone doesn't like to carry them back in the yard, towers been approved by special permit. And then another provider wants to go on that tower's co-location. We notify all adjoining landowners within 30 days to comment. And I've had landowners come in and say, there's been too much traffic on that road, or because of FAA requirements, there's a site on the top. I don't like the site of the tower. Those are, in their mind, legitimate concerns, but not something that we're going to base a land use decision on. We use that administrative review, and things that it has done is that if the access road is deteriorated, and a lot of times the access roads to the tower is an easement of someone's property, then we'll hold that application up until that road is improved, or if there was a landscaping requirement on the base of the tower, we'll hold it up to that landscaping in place. But concerns such as, I don't want to look at the tower, the FAA required light on the top, and that person might have been legitimate, but for us, to deal with land use issues, it would be.
Can you go back one more time, the 6-month decision totality made as far as anything more than 6 months in duration would not qualify for this.
The 6-month period came out of the building official really an opinion that if the activity does not last more than 6 months, then he will classify it as a seasonal or short term. With that being said, then it will basically continue as a farm building, not having to meet all the other requirements that a typical commercial building would have to meet.
So if I chose instead to go through a special use permit process for my farm stand or my lavender farm or whatever.
Lavender farm is good.
Lavender farm. And so it's more than 6 months in duration. Then the building code official would deem that it's not a farm structure.
It depends on how they plan to use that building. Yes, you can very well consider it to be tied to something commercial. Then you have to meet all the other requirements. Like I said, you're going to have weddings in the building.
Are there any other agricultural activities that would be happening in the building? Does that matter to your building code official?
If you're having that one activity that triggers that building official's decision, then you can have others in there, but that one will be done under discussion from the process. I think it's over here.
Okay, I'll process my question with saying that the uses that you have, folks in the audience, I guess, on the bottom of page 2, with page 3, with entertainment, retail activity, to me they seem very broad. And now, since you said that you were looking towards Washington State and some of these other places where you're beginning to craft the ordinance, this is kind of a loaded question, maybe might be better saved for later. In your opinion, when you were creating this, would you have wanted more guidance from the state statute, or were you happy with the process and how you went about creating this at the local level?
I would say that the governing body of Rockland County wanted more local level. And they were putting in place what we felt was best suited for the citizens of Rockland County. I'm just saying.
I mean, on the follow-up from the farmers and other landowners that you mentioned earlier, sort of being in the creation, from their standpoint, they have a lot of questions what was allowed by the state, or they were comfortable sort of working it out with the decision makers.
I think all of them are more comfortable working out what's best suited for Rockland County. And we did have individuals that were at odds with lighting, signage, the number of vehicles permitted per day, dealing with how many people you could have per day. So we were all over the board trying to wrangle all these issues. But again, if it wasn't a matter of what is the state doing versus what we would like to do. Now, the state department will do that, but it wasn't a matter of what the state has been doing.
One thing you said, Billy, prompted me to think of maybe some information we can get. There's the Virginia Building Code Officials Association, and actually VML helps that association, run. And something simply we could put together is like a survey monkey, short survey. I mean, how we do these types of situations so we can get some information statewide. Because I think, one building code official's opinion may be different from another. It'd be good to know that. Similarly looking for information, it might be worthwhile to have VDOT and Department of Health, give some of their opinions, because there may be differences amongst regions and differences amongst health departments, so that would be good to know. Lastly, Billy, you mentioned the erosion sediment control permit. And one issue that Larry and I have been dealing with is the local delegation of the stormwater permit program. And one issue I brought up repeatedly through this whole process and to the General Assembly is the cost of these permits that the local governments are going to have to mandate, and it's coming from the state. And beginning July 1st, 2014, if you disturb an acre or more land with your permit, just for the stormwater construction permit review, I think is at least $2,000. Now, having said that, I think it's a concern across Virginia, because I think there's a lot of instances where I think the cost of that permit doesn't really justify the reviews. And so as we look going forward, as this becomes July 1st, 2014, one of the things we may want to consider consider is, should there be a different type of review process or, on-farm activities when you're disturbing land that doesn't require that large of a review?
One thing, with regard to E&S, with the farm side, under Farm Bureau, we're not requiring them to do a gravel parking lot. Matter of fact, we're trying to encourage them to use this part of the field somewhere, so that you don't have to end up coming under the E&S requirements for doing grading, leveling, put in a parking lot. So we're strongly, another point is not to try to change the character of that community. So even with signage, where we're allowing 32 square feet, which you have to remove that in a 6-month period, and not having lighting that's going to impact the neighbors, using lighting simply for safety, trying to move people around if they're doing some corn maze or something after dark, just make sure we have lighting so people get safely from the activity